Okay. We are back. Thanks for joining, guys. You're just going to get me this week. So feel free to give me questions in the comments because it makes it much less awkward when I have somebody to talk to. I always feel like you guys ever seen the GameStop movie, Roaring Kitty, when he goes on and he does these like solo podcasts and he's talking to like a handful of people about his GameStop longs and he has like only a couple people watching and then it racks up more and more, but he's essentially just on there talking to himself the whole time. Yeah, that's how I feel when I run these streams. But it's always nice to see you guys in the comments and get to answer some of your questions if they come up along the way. Well, I sit here and just talk. I'm just gonna sort of ramble about my thoughts today. Hot pepper lover, what up? What up? Welcome back. I think I see you every single time in the chat. Um, yeah, appreciate you supporting week after week. Phantom, what's up, dude? Good to see you as well. Today we're talking about the bear market. So, we'll look at the state of the market right now. It is a bear market. There's war happening. Bitcoin's down not quite 50%, maybe 40% from all-time highs. But this happens every 4 years, right? This is the Bitcoin 4 year cycle. So I've been through a couple of cycles myself, and I want to basically talk about what I've noticed from cycle after cycle, how usually it's not much different than the last cycle. This time was not different. We actually the top of the market came in on the exact day it was supposed to, which is super interesting. Like I've had meetings with people where they're like, "Oh, like I was so caught off guard by the top of the market coming in, and what do we do now? We were supposed to go into this super cycle, but it's like it kind of just topped out on the day it was supposed to, and usually we have one bad year and then we have three great ones. So I think we're kind of in the middle of our bear market year for Bitcoin as far as the 4 year cycles goes, and if we stay true to that, then we should be coming out of it at the end of this year. So yeah, I wanted to talk about as somebody who's been investing in this space for a long time, what is that like for traders and investors, but also as somebody that's building in the space now, thinking about how it's not all that different, building in the bear and building in the bull. I mean, depending on what your intentions are, but I think a lot of the best stuff is just built during the bear and even launches during the bear because at the end of the day, if you create something of value, people are going to value it. Um, you know, in the bull market, you'll get these crazy speculations on price and things will get out of hand and way overvalued, but that doesn't mean you can't launch something valuable and have it kind of naturally accrue value in the bear market. And then when the bull comes, you'll fly and you'll get to trade at 100x your revenue, like a lot of tokens or even more. So yeah, we're gonna kind of dive into all those things today. I see someone, Emmy, can I build a game in Spicenet ecosystem? Very interesting question. I'd have to know more about what you're looking to do. Like Spicenet can fix a lot of UX problems. If you want that game to involve multi-chain transactions, that's definitely something we can help with. If you want to just build a game that doesn't have to do or doesn't use Spicenet's product, but for the Spicenet fam, then yeah, I mean, that'd be super cool. I'd play it. Yeah, let us know more about your game if you have an idea and you're trying to float something by us. Love to talk about it. Um, I see Hot Pepper, you're saying, how do you not get discouraged during a bear market? And I'm going to get to that in a bit. I will go into, what the state of the market is, my thoughts on it, and then we can kind of talk about my advice towards it. Hopefully that works for you guys. So let's do a little share screen here. Okay. Great. We're going to look at Bitcoin, okay? So I've pulled up kind of some charting that I had done before the stream. I was looking at this for my own sake, sort of gauging where we're at, and I'm just going to look through that with you guys here. So First of all, let's look at the years, the timelines of most bulls and bears, right? So 2017 market topped in December. Okay. Then a year later, 2018 bottom came in December. The next cycle, this was the last one. We had 2021 November, market topped. Again, 2022 November, market bottomed. Then we had October or September. Yeah, end of September, start of October. I think it was 1010 that put the top in the market. So yeah, like October was when the top came in. So if we follow that same logic, it should be about October where the bottom comes in this market, which right now we're in March. That means, we have April, May, June, July, August, September, and then October. So we're about 6 months away from what's probably the bottom of this bear market if we follow the same 4-year cycle. And well, first of all, we'll unpack like some of the implications of the bear market. So in previous times, a bear market also meant that there was no users left, but now you actually have more institutions that have moved in and are continuing to act on chain, despite it being a bear market, because it's not all about the crypto asset prices anymore. It's also about the actual utility. I think this is super positive for the industry as a whole. And as an investor, it's like gives you way more reason to stick around because prices are cheap, but users are still here. So your tech is being valued higher on a fundamental level of people using it, volume traded, all of this stuff. But it's valued lower in terms of prices, which is really an opportunity as a buyer to get in at a good price. As a builder, this is like the biggest green flag ever as well. Like you basically have a time where there's less noise and more ability to just build, and that things are being integrated and used. So it's super bullish, I think, for builders as well. This is a very exciting year to just be heads down, building, shipping your product, all this stuff. But if you look at this, what I said earlier was, yeah, it topped around what you would expect. This is basically what has happened every single bull market so far. So December to November. It was December. It was 3 years later, 1 month, minus 1 month, right? Same thing here. November to October. 3 years later, minus 1 month. So yeah, this time is really no different. The pattern on the chart actually looks like eerily similar. Like this, look at how similar this chart looks. This is crazy. This right here looks almost exactly like this right here. Like insane. It's insanely identical, right? I don't know how to do this thing that people do on TradingView where you like copy the fractal of the chart and then you place it on the other chart to see how exactly it is following it. But I mean, structurally, look, this looks like the exact same kind of top as we had last time. Dip, higher, high, down, almost down to that level, and then a lower high, and it breaks it. And then the question is, how far down do we go? So I drew like an ABCD pattern from last cycle. You can see that we didn't quite get down to it. It would have projected that we end up at about 12K. We front ran it a little bit with the bottom coming in at like 16K last cycle. So then if we look at this cycle, ABCD pattern projects that we end up at about 52K. If we come in just higher than it, it's like you could argue that maybe this last low was even the low of the cycle, and we're just going to have like a sort of depression phase here where we trend sideways. Also, I've marked the previous all-time high. Last time we had kind of a bounce at the previous all-time high from the cycle before. And then we had a dip below it, and then market took off. Interestingly enough, we've had a dip below the previous all-time high this cycle, and we're just resting above it right now. So pretty interesting spot to be watching price action. Like this is a candidate for the bottom. I would say if this is not the bottom, probably one more leg down. And not a very severe one. Like I would expect it to bottom out at like 52K kind of at the most here. So what that means for us right now is like essentially Bitcoin is around the price that it's going to end up being in this bear market. If it ends up being 20% lower, like this does happen. But what I would say is like as an investor, through this whole period until October when we should be getting our cycle bottom, you kind of want to just DCA through all this. Obviously not financial advice, but this is like my DCA zone. This is just what I'm doing. And this is where builders also have their opportunity to ship stuff into a market that's not so exciting, cut through the noise much easier. And then when that bull market comes, they're very well positioned for it. And it's also where you see a lot of opportunity in altcoins, weirdly enough. And I think we're actually starting to see this with some alts kind of coming out of the woodwork and performing really well right now. Because when the market is quiet, there's a lot. It's a lot easier for like somebody shipping something to capture attention. So if you look at Tau, with like all of the AI movement and stuff that's happening, Tau has had an insanely good week last week. They had a 60% week almost. And there's still a lot of opportunity here. I mean, Tau is pretty cheap. So this is kind of my strategy as an investor right now, which I don't have like all that much time to do trading, but accumulate some Bitcoin, always DCAing at these levels, and then basically looking for breakouts like Tau and seeing if I can get into them before that bull market comes back. Another one is Derive. I mean, these guys, yeah, wow, look at that. So, I mean, this is just a bullish chart, right? Like this is probably going to have a little bull of its own while we have a pretty depressing market across the board. They hit like third in open interest amongst on-chain derivatives platforms, I think last week. And yeah, they have an amazing product. It's on-chain options. Options are a pretty big deal in traditional finance, and they're kind of waking up on chain. And this is when we talk about institutions continuing to trade, even though it's a bear market and like actual utility coming in. And that's why you see volumes kind of staying at reasonable levels here. Options are going to be probably their preferred instrument as they are in traditional finance. So I'm very excited about Derive. I'm very excited about Tau, the AI movement. I think there's a lot of bullish catalysts coming for the industry as a whole. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be building into it. So that's my share of the chart for today. And my take on, kind of where we're at in the cycle. I guess fear and greed is another thing we could look at, but essentially, yeah, we're in extreme fear. You could expect that. We reached like 8 on the fear and greed index, which is a number that I don't even know if we reached last cycle. We reached it for one day last cycle as well. So yeah, I think all signs right now are kind of pointing to like this is probably the start of that depression phase of just Bitcoin has likely found around where its bottom is going to be, and it's just going to sort of go sideways for a while. And now we have the choice of how we're going to spend our time while we wait for that bull to come back. One thing I wanted to talk about was like that in general, success is not coming from following the crowd. So if your friends are kind of leaving the crypto space because it's slow and boring, this is usually your opportunity to start paying more attention to it, because these are when the opportunities come. Typically, most people don't get to capture those opportunities. And that's sort of what I'm thinking about as a builder as well. Like I'm seeing a lot of people pivot away, VCs pivot away, move to AI, all this stuff. But these are like fair weather builders. And I think you just need to be a bit of a delusional gung-ho builder for the thing that you believe in and kind of stick to your guns, follow your theses, and continue to build towards what you believe. So that would be my main piece of advice for today, is just, if you have something that you believe in, then you'll stick around. And if you didn't believe in it much in the first place, then that's fine. You can go find something that you truly do believe in and stick around there, even when there is a bear market. It presents a lot of opportunity. Um, what I see a lot of as a result, like the bad things that come with building in a bear for teams are funding can be harder, right? So less investors are FOMOing into your industry if prices are down. So you do have to kind of find a way to navigate this as a founder in the space, because cutting costs is going to be essential. You got to be able to survive through that bear. So one thing I've been doing a lot of is like AI automation, because much cheaper to get uh, a baseline level of productivity and even expand your productivity using these AI tools. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about today for builders, was some of the AI automation I'm doing, and maybe that's useful to you guys as well. The first thing I started out with was Notion. This is like my database that all of my AI can post to, pull context from. It's basically like a workspace where like your team on the human front and on the AI front can all coincide and have the same files. This is great for building context to build things on top of. So that's kind of where I started out on my AI journey, was like building all this company context in Notion, our docs, our goals right now, tasks that people are working on, CRMs, all of this stuff you can build really easily in Notion. And then when you build anything else that's supposed to perform tasks, like it can pull from this context, and you can even have it output its results back to Notion so that other agents or humans can pick that up. So that's really good as like your agent workspace. Highly recommend looking into that. And then another thing that I actually found out about 2 days ago is this called Paperclip. I'm going to pull up the thread for you guys to show you, because this is extremely fascinating. And what this basically is like agent coordination. So you guys can let me know in the comments how many of you are already using agents and not just like using your LLM as like a replacement for Google. I think that's kind of like level one of AI use, is like you ask it questions like, uh, what's the weather going to be like? How do I wipe my bum? all, all of this stuff. And then step two is sort of, you have like an AI assistant and you can prompt it and it does a task when you prompt it to. And then step three is basically like you have autonomous agents, and these agents are coordinating with each other. Paperclip so far is my favorite way of achieving step three. Let me show you guys what this is. Paperclip. How to build a company run entirely by AI agents, free open source, 5-minute setup. So if you can imagine, obviously this is like maybe a bit of hyperbole, but if you can run a company with AI agents, then the amount of funding you need is a lot less, right? So this is a really cool tool for building in a market where you're not going to be able to get access to funding, but you have all these ideas, you want to try stuff, or you're already running a company and you need to maintain the same output you've been getting, but cut costs. This is an extremely powerful tool for doing something like that. And basically, what this does is hooks up to Claude Code or Codex, whatever your LLM that you're using in your terminal. It can power this, and you can make agents that use that LLM. But then those agents can now talk to each other and assign tasks and coordinate on things. So like right now with Claude Cowork, if I talk to it, I have to specifically prompt it and maybe schedule it and say like every hour you're going to do this task. But with this, I can have an agent and it can go and give a task to a different agent and delegate, and that agent will immediately wake up and start doing that task. Super cool to see in action. It's like kind of creepy. You have a dashboard of these agents, and I can tell one of them, let's say it's like a blog writer, right? So there's a blog writer, and I say, you're going to write a blog about this, and I give it a bunch of context, and it starts writing a blog. And then at the end, it's like, I need someone to review this. And then there's like another agent that reviews for signs that something is AI written, and it humanizes the writing. And it can do that and then send it back to the original agent. And they can go back and forth reviewing this until they have a product that fits the guidelines that I've set out for it. So as long as you act as like the company brain and you continue to set strict regulations and guidelines for what you want the output to look like, you can sort of allow the agents to work with one another until it achieves that output guideline that you set. So yeah, you have your org chart, your goal alignment, your heartbeats. Your agents will like check for tasks every once in a while according to their heartbeat. You can set budget constraints. Super cool if you're using like Anthropic's API and you're worried about spending too much on tokens. It'll basically block tasks if they're going to go above that token amount. Yeah. So I set this up yesterday, and I was basically able to automate sales research, prospecting, and then draft messages for outreach. So I have like 5 agents working together. There's a head of sales, and I'll give him like a broad task. Like, I want you to look at these 5 different chains and research which one would be best for Spicenet to move into next. And then I can give it a bunch of criteria that it's going to use to make that decision. Once it's done, it'll send a task to this prospecting agent that I have, which basically will go through the chain that the head of sales decided, and it will look for all of the best prospects for SpiceFlow. So I've given it a description of what SpiceFlow does and who needs it, and given all of this criteria that it will rank these projects against. And it'll create a list of the projects that it feels like needs SpiceFlow the most and that we should get in contact with immediately, because like they're going to be able to use this. They're going to be super excited when we message them, essentially. And then once it figures out what those projects are, it creates tasks for each project to what I call the warm intro finder agent. This agent will do research on that project, figure out who works at that company, who their investors are, who their partners are, and create a list saying, if we can get in touch with any of these people and ask them for an intro to this company, one of them should be able to get us an intro. And then I have another agent that looks at all the groups that I'm in Telegram and looks for like those contacts that the warm intro finder found. Once they find, let's say, a couple contacts for a specific company, they'll create a task for the copywriter agent who will draft messages that I can send to these individuals that will help us get warm intros to these companies. So it's pretty powerful. I was able to set this all up in one day. Is sales the best thing to use it for? Maybe, maybe not. I haven't tried using it in other verticals yet, but I definitely will. And just wanted to put this on everyone's radar in case you guys are building something and you're wondering how you can get more work done in your time and even have work being done while you're sleeping and stuff. This is the way that I've figured out how to do it. I know everyone kind of has their own methods, but I believe strongly that if you're not doing this in the bear market, like you're really not taking advantage of your resources that give you the fighting chance to survive through this bear, ship something special, and then live to see the next bull. So that's why I'm sharing it with you guys today. And with that, I think I am going to sign off for the day, get back to my automating and my shipping, and until next time, stay spicy. Take care, guys.